One Piece: The Cursed Holy Sword is the fifth animated film of the anime's One Piece film series, and the film mainly focuses on Roronoa Zora. And what is it all about? Well, on Asusko Island, the Straw Hats pirates learn about the world's most beautiful sword and a valuable treasure, though it contains a deadly curse. When they come back to the ship, they find that Zoro, who was to act as a guard, is missing in action, but they are forced to leave part when they are attacked by marines. They dock in another section of the island and come across a village whose job is to keep the Seven Stars sword sealed. It is soon attacked by the marines who are trying to free the sword, among whom is Zoro. What could the reason be behind Zoro doing this? What is the secret of the sword? Why would the Marines want it? The answer lies on the night of the red moon. And yeah, I won't spoil the movie for you. I recommend you watching it first. Yeah, this is the fifth film in the One Piece film series. And it is also the second actual proper feature-length film, because the first One Piece films were like under 50 minutes long, but this one and the last one were literally the typical like 90ish minutes or a bit above. So yeah, this is like the second proper One Piece movie. And what do I think about this film? Well, let's talk about the good. And the good is that I am liking the fact that this film is focusing on Zoro and his sort of like loyalty to the crew, because he's sort of like ditched them in favor of the Marines and his like childhood friend, who's this like swordsman dude who's after this interesting sword to make him really powerful. Yeah, it was really cool seeing Zoro and Sanji fight for the first time in a probably ever. Like, I've never seen like an intense fight between them. It was kind of brutal. It kind of was sort of reminiscent of Luffy versus Usopp in a way, but a little less sad than that fight in my opinion. I also think the colors really do work, particularly in the final act, where when the red moon starts to appear, we have this like super red tint throughout, and the colors are so much more saturated in this film and they pop more. I think it's like the second digital One Piece film, I have to admit, but like the middle act of the film was probably the best middle act of any of the One Piece films so far, when they're on the island and getting to know the locals and Zoro's sort of missing. And I kind of liked all that stuff with Usopp and Luffy having that comedic moment running through the caves. That always made me laugh, just seeing Luffy just being his Luffy goofy self. And just seeing how cool Zoro is pretty much throughout. Like, Zoro being cool is just always going to be really cool, to be honest with you. And I really did like the fact that the Straw Hats actually, I felt they were more prominent in this film than the previous one, where it was mainly focusing on Luffy or some others, and then like the rest was sort of taking a back seat. And I kind of like how the others are more in the forefront. You know, we get to see a bit more Sanjay, we get to see a bit more of Robin, characters who kind of weren't as prominent in the previous films, which is always a plus and a bonus. But let's talk about the bad, and unfortunately there's a lot more bad than good with this film. First off, for a theatrical film, it sure does feel like it's on a budget. This is possibly the most budgeted looking One Piece film out of all of them. It's probably the film with probably the, I wouldn't say worst animation, but just not impressive animated moments. Like, there were a lot of still frames, like even the fights towards the end. Like, when you looked at the previous movie, that fight was brutal, bloody, awesome. Like, that was intense, that was insane, the animation was on point. But this film, the animation was just sort of lackluster, if I'm being real honest with you. The art really helped, but like the motion was just so static and stuttery, and it didn't look that nice, to be honest with you, at times. Also, the whole backstory and like origin of the Holy Sword was kind of confusing, and you kind of felt lost when they were explaining it. It was just like very talky. It was a lot more tell than show in a way, when it should be show don't tell. And when you really talk a lot about a backstory or something, it can get a little bit boring when you're watching the film, and it can absolutely slow down the pacing, which it did. But towards the end, with the final fight, I felt like it was very anticlimactic. I mean, it was cool seeing Zoro mainly focusing on the final fight against the villain, and Luffy sort of taking a back seat, and then Zoro kind of finish off the villain. But it was very anticlimactic. It kind of was a bit too quick in a way. it just sort of ended, and the film didn't really feel like that until towards this final act of the film, where the pacing just sort of, it felt kind of rushed in my opinion. And yeah, I will admit it's probably one of the weakest One Piece films out of all of them, because at least with the second one, at least that was memorable, and the first one, like they were sort of painless and sort of memorable. I mean, the third one was just a bit, oh, the Chopper Island one, that was yikes. But the fourth one, also pretty forgettable. But that final fight really saved the entire film. But this film, apart from some cool Zoro scenes, yeah, pretty disappointing, to be honest with you. The villain, well, I mean, he's not really. I mean, he's just. It's that typical trope where someone's being possessed and then the hero has to save them from not being possessed anymore. And yeah, it's pretty generic and cliche, if I'm gonna be honest. Also, the main sort of pre-test girl, like One Piece loves these pre-test girls, like they're always popping up. She just felt like a copy-paste version of Vivi from the Alabasta arc. She didn't seem that different or unique compared to Vivi. It was just Vivi with a slightly darker shade of blue on her hair, which is just sort of unoriginal and just sort of like made on the cheap just so that they can milk this franchise. But overall, I still don't know. I actually don't know if I recommend this film, to be honest. If you want to see cool Zoro moments, then yeah, it's cool. But I think there are other One Piece films that are a bit better, and the future movies I've been hearing are pretty interesting. So with that, I'm gonna give Holy Sword a 5 out of 10. I'm gonna give it a C minus. Go check it out if you want to. But thank you for watching this review. Please like and share this video, comment down below, subscribe to this channel for more anime, manga reactions and reviews. With that said, thank you for watching, and as always, Boarded Review signing out.